What is up, everybody? Hazeblade here, and today I'm going to be walking you through a step-by-step tutorial on how to properly configure Resident Evil Outbreak File 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 2 emulator, and we're going to be setting it up also for network connectivity as well as getting it on the HD loader so we have some faster load times as we're transitioning from area to area in-game. So I'm going to leave a link in the description for all the necessary files that you will need, but we are going to need PCSX2. Any version newer than 1.4 is fine. I'm on 1.6 for reference purposes. And once you download these two files, most notably speaking, you're going to want the CLR dev9 7-zip as well as the HDL OPL 7-zip. So when you extract the contents of these, this CLR is the one that we're going to start with. If you extract the contents of that, you're going to get this CLR dev9.dll. Now this is going to need to go into the plugins folder. Now I've already put it in there. So it's gonna say that I have a duplicate here, but if I click here, I already, of course, have mine. If you're doing this for the first time, it's not going to say this. It's just going to go ahead and move it in there. So I'm actually going to go ahead and skip since I've already got mine set up. And I'm going to undo this action just so that way I don't have excess files. And the second thing that you're going to extract is this HDL OPL. So again, once you extract that, inside of that folder, you're going to find the hdloader.elf as well as the OpenPS2 Loader.elf. Backing out into that, we're ready to go ahead and launch the software. So inside of PCSX2, the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set up the WebSocket, which was the file that we just put into the plugins folder. So if we go into config, under plugin BIOS selector, under plugins, at the very bottom where it says dev9, you're going to click this drop-down window. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, it's going to have the dev9 null driver. Now that we have moved that into the plugins folder, however, we are going to select the CLR dev9 0.6.3. We're going to click apply, and then we're going to click configure. Now from there, you're going to get this small little window right here, this config form. You're going to want to make sure that both of these boxes are checked, enable Ethernet and enable HDD, which stands for hard disk drive. From there, we don't need to worry about configuring the Ethernet, but we do need to configure the hard disk drive. So we're going to click options. And again, we're going to get another small window that pops up. And from there, we're going to need to pick a directory. Now, I have already picked my directory, so you can pick anywhere on your computer that you would like. I have mine in the same folder as my emulator, and you're also going to need to indicate a size. You need at least 12 gigs, I will say. I go 15 just for good measure, but you can absolutely go 12 if you would like. From there, you're going to click apply, and it's going to take a moment to write that and partition your hard drive to allocate those however many gigs that you have allocated. You do need at least 12 in order for both games, if you're doing file 1 and 2, for both of those to have enough space within your partition drive for your PlayStation 2 emulator. Once that is done, do not forget to click apply out of this config form window as well to make sure that those changes are saved. Now, one other thing to note, in order for this to work, you do need to be on the Japanese version of the game. So you will need to pick up a Japanese copy. I cannot provide the copies to you as far as the ISOs. You will need to pick up your own copy, extract those, and rip those out, as well as the Japanese BIOS for the 2006 update. Before we go into system, we're going to want to make sure that we load in a game so that way we can install it through HD Loader. So I've already actually done Outbreak File 1, so I'm going to do Outbreak File 2 as an example just to show you. So we're going to click Outbreak File 2. If you don't have them on this list, then you'll want to click Browse and navigate to wherever you rip the ISO to. Now, I am also using the translated version. I am not covering the patch that you have to do after you rip the ISO. I'm not covering that in this video as far as installing the translator, but I will leave a link in the description so that way you can find it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select File 2, Japan. We're going to go to System, Run ELF. And we're going to select the HD loader that we extracted earlier from the files in the description. Now, when this loads the first time, it is going to ask you to format the drive. Now, since I've already done my install, I don't have that pop up anymore. But the first time that you do load into the HD loader, when it recognizes the drive that we just made in that setup that we just did, where we allocated those 15 gigs, that's going to format, and it's going to allow us to access the HD loader. So I've already got file 2 on the deck, so I'm going to move over to install. If you haven't loaded it in, you can load it in now under the CD/DVD tab, and then click continue. It's going to check and make sure that it's a valid disk, which of course it is, and we're going to need a name. So I'm going to just name mine Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. and then we're going to hit end. And now the installation has started. This installation usually per game takes anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. So feel free to get up, stretch your legs, go let the dog out, grab a coffee, because it's going to take a minute. And if you're doing both games again, it's going to take that long for both games each. So you're looking at probably somewhere between, I would say about 35 to 45 minutes to get everything installed from start to finish. So we'll come back in just a moment once this installation is finished, and we will continue walking you through the tutorial. All right, so once your installation is finished, if you went with a short name, you can go ahead and tab over and rename it now. But once those installations are finished, we can go ahead and close this out. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you are installing both games, you will want to close out of the HD loader, load the other game in, then relaunch the HD loader and follow the same steps. If you try to switch disks while you're within the HD loader, it will bug out. Sometimes it doesn't work. So best practice is just to close out of the HD loader, switch disks, then reload it in. But once that's done, we can close out of that. And the next thing we're going to do is set up our memory cards. If you haven't done this already, this is essential to getting the network information saved. Unfortunately, in the day and age we live in now, compared to back then, all of that network information was saved on an 8 megabyte memory card. So we have to set those up. So we're going to go into Run ELF. And instead of doing the HD loader, we're going to open the PS2 loader. Now, once this loads in, before we change any settings, the first thing that we're going to want to do is go down to where it says exit, and we're still going to select that option. From there, we're going to access the memory card, and it's going to tell us that the memory card is unformatted and ask us to format it now, and we're going to select yes. And at this point, if you want to get a second memory card, you can do the same thing with memory card 2. You don't have to if you don't want to, but since we're already in here, we might as well do the second one. Now from there, we've got our memory cards configured so we can save our network information. So we're again going to close that. All right, so we're going to open the PS2 loader again. So now that we've set up our memory cards, what we're going to want to do is go into settings. We're going to go down to HDD device start mode, and we're going to select auto. And then we're going to go to the bottom and we're going to select OK. Now, in order to make sure that these changes save and write to the memory card, you're going to want to make sure that you select Save Changes. It'll say Settings Saved. You can then confirm. And then upon hitting the Start button, it'll now take you into the games that we installed via the HD loader. From there, we can now press the Start button, which will tab us over into the games we have installed from the HD loader. So in this case, I have both Outbreak and Outbreak File 2 installed. We're going to go ahead and launch Outbreak File 1 and get our network information saved. All right, so once we're in the game, we're going to press the Start button, and we're going to select Network Play. Now, there will be a few prompts that show up here. We're going to click Next, and we're going to load in the net file by clicking Yes once again. It's going to access that data on the memory card, and from there, we'll be able to go into the network settings. So we're going to start with Net Connection, and we're going to tab up to Next and select that. Now, once you load into this menu, everything is going to be blank. Now, at least for these first few menus, we can actually press the F9 key on our keyboard to be able to see what we're doing here, but we are going to be doing a blind setup, so pay very close attention to the following steps. To start, we're going to go into Edit Network Configuration, and we're going to select Yes. It'll take a moment to load, but once it does, we'll be presented with our blind options. So the order is as follows. From the first menu, we're going to click through that. We're going to click through the second menu. And we're going to load into this description screen here. And we're going to press right on the D-pad to tab over, and we're going to select the network adapter, which is the first option. Then we're going to tab over again with the right button on the D-pad, and we're going to click OK. And we're going to select the second option. Make sure you confirm, by the way, before you move over to the next tab. Right on the D-pad once again, we're going to select the first option. Right on the D-pad again, we're going to select the second option. Right on the D-pad again, and the first option is where we're going to set up our DNS configuration. So with the first option selected here, we're going to go into that, and there are 4 different fields here that we need to fill in. our DNS configuration is as follows. It is 173, which, by the way, this is super hard to see. What I'm going to do to try to help you out as far as from the video standpoint goes is I'm going to blow this up, which it might not be perfect. But if we start from the back by pressing down on the D-pad, we can actually see where it transitions from 100 to 200. So we're going to select up to that point. There's 200 there. And our first value is 173. So we're going to go back 27. There we go. The first number is the only one that's difficult. The second number is 198. The third number is 207. And the final number is 99. Confirm and tab over once again. Select the first option. Here we're going to name our settings. You can actually name this whatever you want, then hit enter. Tab over one more time. And if we use the analog stick on the left, we can scroll down and we can confirm our IP settings, as you see here, 173.198.207.99, which matches what is on the text file that I generated. That is the DNS information for the private servers. So we're going to confirm once again, and it's going to save that information onto our memory card as a network configuration file. We're going to select OK. We're going to move over to the left option. And from there, we're going to hit the back button, select the left option once again, back once again, left option once again, and this is going to reboot the game and take us back into the title menu. Now with this, I would recommend restarting the game just to make sure that your settings are saved and properly configured. And now we're going to want to reboot the game. So we're going to go into System, run ELF, PS2 Loader. All right, so now that we're back into the PS2 Loader, we're going to hit the Start button. We're going to select Resident Evil Outbreak and load into the game with our newly configured network settings. All right, we're back in the game. Same as before, we're going to go into the network play option. And upon loading, again, clicking through the same menus that we loaded before, we are going to load in the net file, which is now containing our newly saved information. And we'll actually be able to, once we get in, we'll be able to double check and make sure that our settings did save and that they were set up properly. And the way that we'll do that is by going into net connection, hitting next once again, the same way that we did last time. And upon loading that information, again, if you don't see anything here, hit F9. The way that we confirm that our network configuration was saved properly is we should have a number 1 option down here that has a configured network adapter. And if we hit triangle, we can see the primary DNS is set to the values that we had configured earlier in the video. So from there, what we're going to do is we're going to select that network adapter, and it's going to initialize our connection. Now this will take some time. It'll have to initialize the connection, and then it'll have to go through an authentication process as well. So just be patient. It'll take a couple minutes, but all in all, it's a pretty smooth process. Now we're doing the authorization for the DNS. Again, we'll take a few moments, and then we'll be able to play. And from here, we are now connected to the private server. It'll take a moment to load all of these screens. Even though we are running from the HD loader, the actual connection portion does take some time. So if you are already signed in through the forums via your web browser, you can actually tab over into auto login and log in that way. Otherwise, you would use your forum ID and password to log in. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and log in that way. And again, more loading screens, but once we get logged in here, we'll then be able to select our profile by selecting Enter Lobbies. And finally, here we are. We are now in the ID screen, which is where we connect to and join a game. So if I want to select one of these profiles here, we can hit OK to use the profile. And from there, we'll be able to join a private server. Alrighty guys, well I hope this video has been helpful. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, don't forget about channel membership starting at $1.99, where you can take advantage of some really cool perks. Thanks so much again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Take care.